My journey, I guess you could say, started in November-ish of 2021. I started feeling just not myself. I was having migraines. I started having panic attacks out of nowhere that I'd never had before. I left work twice in an ambulance. I just knew something was going on with me. Something was different. Something changed. I am in the veterinary field, so I had been a vet tech for 17 years or so at that point. The doctors that I work with kind of know all about like zoonotic diseases and things like that. And they were all just kind of convinced, like, you have Bartonella. I bet you anything you have Bartonella. So I went to my doctor again, like as I'm continuously going to her, telling her like this new symptom, this is happening now. I went and said, everybody at my work thinks that I might have Bartonella or some kind of like tick-borne thing. They think I should get tested for Bartonella and Lyme and stuff like that. And she thought that sounded reasonable. So she sent me to just the regular lab. And did a bunch of Lyme testing, Bartonella testing, stuff like that. All of it came back negative.
I remember that in your story, that
Yeah.
the first stuff was a lot of mystery around this, because this what we kind of talked about that too, because that's what happened with my wife. And with our story was I ran that standard testing first and that missed it.
Yep.
And that's a bummer when you
I
go to the doctor and the tests are normal.
feeling pretty hopeless at this point, because I knew that there was something wrong. Everyone around me knew something was wrong. Like, she's not the same. And I just continued to get sicker and sicker, and would go back to my doctor and tell her like, something's wrong. Like, we need to figure something else out. What else can we check? She gradually started thinking that maybe it was in my head, like, because she couldn't find anything medically wrong with me. So she kind of had me thinking maybe it was in my head. Like, I was really confused and scared for, what could be possibly wrong with me. Because I knew something was going on. So she kind of sent me away, told me maybe I should go to like therapy or psychiatrist or something like that, which I did. I was desperate to feel better and thought, okay, maybe this is in my head. Went to a psychiatrist. No, I mean, nothing was really changing. I was getting sicker and sicker. I had lost 30 pounds. I was not eating. I wasn't sleeping. I was missing work, which was very unusual for me. I was missing activities with my daughter and my husband. And even when I was going to, fight through things with them, I was miserable. They could tell I was miserable. Everyone around me knew I was miserable. And I just could not figure out what was wrong with me. The doctors that I work with, the veterinarians that I work with, insisted that they still think that I have something to do with tick-borne stuff or something. So they convinced me to go out of insurance network and go to Galaxy Lab in North Carolina. They deal a lot with the veterinary school in North Carolina. And have a lot of specialty testing and things. So I paid out of pocket. And even though I had to get my doctor's kind of sign off on her ordering this test for me through Galaxy. And when I called her, she, kind of was like, why are you doing something I already told you don't have? Like, why? And I just said, I just want to cover all my bases. I want to pay the money and get a good test done. And she reluctantly, kind of was like, okay, whatever. So she ordered the thing through Galaxy for me, sent off my blood work. Sure enough, came back Bartonella.
Yeah, there it
That's
was.
the only thing I had them test for at that time was Bartonella, because everybody just had convinced me that that's what I had. So it came back positive. My doctor sent me to a infectious disease doctor. He put me on 2 weeks of doxycycline. That obviously did not help. He did his own testing there. When I came back for my follow-up appointment 2 weeks later, I told him that I was no better and antibiotics didn't help at all. He went over my blood work, which was all perfectly normal again. He said, you don't have anything. There's nothing I can do for you. The antibiotics didn't make you feel better. and my blood work says you don't have anything, so I don't really know how else I can help you. And I believe he also told me maybe I should see a psychiatrist.
Oh, oh,
Um,
Whitney, I remember this. It's about the time that we met, and I
it was
remember we had the one better test saying we had Bart. And one thing doctors miss so much and happened with you was that 2 weeks of antibiotics, that initial antibiotics works well if you get it really early, if you get it within the first month or two. And many doctors don't know that they're giving it to you. How long was it between when you started having symptoms and the time when he actually gave you the antibiotics for Bart?
probably like 6 months or so, maybe 5 or 6 months. Uh,
We really know that if you don't get it in that initial, 1 to 2 month burst, it's probably not going to work.
right. Once I figured all this stuff out, I kind of was thinking back in my life and I think that I've probably had some of this stuff like kind of smoldering for years. Once I was able to put it all together, it all kind of started to make sense. So the infectious disease doctor pretty much sent me on my way. I think I left that office that day in tears. I called my husband. I was ready to just give up. My symptoms were all getting way worse. I started having the suicidal kind of impulses and things. Like, told my husband, like, you need to have changed the combination to the safe. I don't feel comfortable driving at this point. Like, I'm having psychotic urges to not be alive anymore, which freaked everyone out. It got to the point where I even was like, I need to maybe go to a hospital because maybe something's really wrong with my brain. Because I went from a very normal person in my 30s to someone I didn't recognize anymore. Um, so I knew there had to be something wrong, even though all these doctors were telling me that nothing's wrong with me, everything's fine, it's in your head. I knew, and my husband knew, my family knew, like something else is going on. We got to figure this out. So the suicidal stuff was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. I knew I have to figure this out, or it's going to get bad. So I really just got online and started researching Facebook groups, and just really I was spending all of my spare time online trying to like find other people who had maybe a similar story as me, or something I could relate to with someone else, and maybe hear some kind of story that would help me figure this out. That's when I found some of your stuff on YouTube. I saw you for the first time in September of 2021, and you really just sounded like you knew a lot about this, more than anybody that I had talked to here. Obviously, I went to an infectious disease doctor who had really no idea what Bartonella was. I could tell he was not versed in the subject.
And really for ticks, we're really hoping like infectious disease should be the person who really knows how to take care of it really well. And they should be the experts in tick-borne illness, but they're really not. They're really kind of, as you said, not versed as well as they should be or up to date on it. They're still kind of just following old, really simple protocols from the early 90s that we don't think are as good as they really need to be. We could put it that way.
I live in Florida, so I don't think tick kind of stuff is as common here as it is up where
Mhm.
you guys are. So I don't think this doctor that I went to really knew that much about it. So I was just determined to find somebody who knew how to treat this for me. So when I came to you, you sent me for a bunch more blood work. We found a bunch of new things that I didn't know I had: Powassan virus, mycoplasma, Bartonella,
Lyme and yeah,
Lyme
Lyme and
disease.
Bart. I think you had four if I'm remembering
Four things.
correctly.
The CDC actually called me at work and to talk to me about my positive Lyme result. And I think like the day I had my follow-up appointment with you, so they just beat you to it, I guess.
Yeah,
And I
you
was
were officially CDC positive, which a lot of people are not, but you actually hit their criteria. They're as slam dunk as it ever gets. Yeah.
yeah. She told, her response to me was, "Well, were you treated?" And I said, "Well, I was on antibiotics for 2 weeks." And she said, "Okay, I'm going to put you in the book as, cured." And I'm like, "Well, I'm definitely not cured. I'm still very, very sick." And she's like, "Well, you had the antibiotics, so to us, you're cured." I'm like, Okay.
I forgot that, Wendy. I remember that phone call because you told me the CDC called me and informed me that I was cured, and you were like, "No." And I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
and that's some of the problem, right? Is you got the antibiotics, so you're checking a box, but we said, well, did your symptoms get you improve? Do you feel better? Is your life back to normal? The answer was no, 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 no. Well, that's not cured, right?
Yeah.
That's not cured. So, okay, from
And
that point on, you kind of started working with us, and how long did it take until you kind of started making some headway and feeling some improvement then after we kind of started
we
helping you?
I saw you the big like the middle of September of 2021. And it probably took a few days or so to get all my medicine and all that stuff started. But I would say by like the middle of December of the same year, I was remembering what it felt like to feel good again. I had a little bit of energy back. I was not, in this depressive state where I just feel like my world's falling apart. I could start to see some light at the end of the tunnel, remembering feelings that I hadn't felt in a long time, just of simple stuff like happiness. And
I mean, within 2, 3 months there, we had some positivity.
oh yeah.
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 Okay.
I was feeling like, wow, I can't remember what it feels like to feel this good. This is weird. It was a feeling I hadn't felt in 2 years or more. So you and I saw each other I think it was like every 6 weeks or so. My blood work changed a little bit up and down throughout the time. You switched some of the medications up a few times. I was able to take them all and not have any, GI upset and stuff like that. So I was doing good with being able to take everything. That was 2021. It is 2024, and I'm a different person. I enjoy life again and feel 99% normal most of the
Normal.
time.
Most of the time we do. Yeah, it was I remember I was trying to remember how long it took us really for the bulk of your protocol. And I want to say it was about a year and a half, wasn't it? Is that kind of
Yeah, that's when I think we started kind of like being able to back off some of the stuff,
yeah,
and we
yeah.
felt like we had it under control.
Yeah,
Um,
your tests were better and you were feeling mostly better and you were really getting back to life. Because you were like, Dr. Warren, I know I'm better. And I was like, how do you know you're better?
my daughter was, I don't know, 12 or 13 at the time. And she, her dad and I were her softball coaches. And I remember having to call in reinforcements like, hey, can you go help, my husband coach softball tonight? I'm not up for it. I can't. Um, so I kind of backed off all of the helping coach stuff, and I had to count on other people to kind of step in and help. And gradually throughout the time, I was back coaching again with him and running around with the kids, and um, not hating every second of it. It was, I felt like I was turning back into myself a little bit. Obviously, my daughter could tell a big difference. It was just night and day. At some point, it just became like, wow, this is what I remember feeling like, before all of this got so out of control.
Fun story when you shared it because, it was one, I think sometimes when we do things yearly, people, sometimes get these things to go, well, last year when I tried to go to softball, it felt like this. And this year I just went and had a good time and I enjoyed the whole softball experience. And that was like this moment where you're like, I'm so much better than last year at this time.
I told you the fair story, the where my daughter shows chickens at the state fair every year.
Oh yeah, yeah, this one too.
It was March of 2022, I guess. I was at fair. It's always the first week of March every year.
Mm-hmm.
March of 2022 was horrible for me. I had to go sit at this state fair with her for 9 hours a day for 4 days in a row or something, and was absolutely miserable. Like I said, I was down to like 100 pounds. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just like kind of sat in a corner and hid, which, everybody who knew me knew was strange. So that was like the worst week of my life. It was really bad, but I'm a mom, so I had to suck it up and sit there and, try to make the best of it. And then I remember the following year at the same, the same week of the next year, I was 100% like all about it. We were having a great time. I was interacting with other parents and kids and wasn't off in the corner hiding under my sweatshirt. So
Yeah.
that story, I probably told you that story too, that it was like complete night and day from the same week a year later was a totally different person.
Yeah, those are the funnest parts of my job is when people, they're feeling, it's something when you say, I feel better, but it's different when people say, I couldn't do this before and now I got to do it, and I got to be part of my family and enjoy it and it went well. I think our last question is just, if you could share what do you feel was different about, working with me at Restorative Health Solutions, compared to maybe some of the other doctor experiences you had in this, trying to solve this problem?
I just feel like you spent a lot of time, like you told me about the lectures and stuff that you go to. You seemed super knowledgeable, and I liked the fact that you weren't just gonna like pump me full of a bunch of antibiotics and, I was gonna have all these other symptoms from the antibiotics. And I was 100% for the like, if you can fix me with like natural stuff, I'm down to try. At this point, nothing else has helped me. No antibiotics have helped me. No medical doctor has been able to figure this out for me. So I was willing to just give the natural thing a try and see what happens. And I'm really, really glad I did. I was skeptical. My husband was pretty skeptical about the situation. Like you need to be like on real meds. And I'm like, well, I've already been on real meds and that didn't work. So I'm going to try this route. And he was supportive of me, even though he was a little skeptical. And he will tell you today that he's glad that he, didn't talk me out of it. And he's glad that I went with it. And, it ended up working out great for me. So,
Yeah. I'm thankful you did too. I've done it both ways, and I tell everybody this who I can, but I think you can certainly do it with high dose, long term, multiple antibiotics. But I think it is one of the hardest ways to do it on most people. And I think once it's chronic, which it certainly was in you, I think generally speaking, I think the herbal route is the best with the least side effects, the most research that I think people can do. Is there anything, if somebody's, maybe watching this and thinking, gosh, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of hopeless. If you can remember back to how you felt when you were sick, what would you tell them for someone who's sick and kind of, losing hope or feeling lost when they're struggling?
the first thing would just be your own advocate. Because if I would have just listened to all these doctors that said, it's in your head, you don't have anything wrong with you, look at this blood work, it's fine, you're good. I don't know if I'd even be here today. It got that out of control. So just, never just, if you know that something's wrong with you inside, your body the best and you feel like something's wrong, you have to advocate for yourself and you have to keep searching for the next person. If one person can't help you and can't figure it out, move to the next person. Because like I said, if I would have stopped at the first few doctors that told me there was nothing wrong with me, I don't know, I'd probably be like I was 3 years ago and be living a miserable life and making everyone around me miserable. So just really just know your body and listen to your body and advocate for yourself and don't, rely on one doctor's opinion because clearly there's lots of doctors that have specialty knowledge of stuff
Yeah.
that others don't have. And I finally found somebody that knew how to treat me and all my specific weird things, bugs you call them. You kind of count on your doctor to like know, like maybe her problem needs some kind of specialty test, but my doctor thought that just the regular lab test was good enough and she went with it and was dead set on that being an accurate test and didn't want to see it any other way. So I kind of forced her hand and, said, please sign this paper so I can get this blood work sent to me, even if you think I'm crazy. let me spend my money and get it done the way I want to do it. And luckily I did that. And she had to call me later on and say, oh, I was wrong.
Well,
So
I'm so glad you're better now. These stories are, fun for me to see too, is because I remember that first phone call and thinking, oh my goodness. And it's fun to see you now, and I think we talked earlier this week and I should do this. And it was like our whole conversation was just on all the things in life you're doing now because you're healthy. And it's super fun to hear and see that. And thank you so much for, taking your time to tell some of your story with me today.
thank you. And thank you for everything you did for me. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Whitney.
Bye.